Glory be to God who gives us the word. May God write that word on our hearts, and may God and God alone receive glory, honor, and praise. The full throes of the pre-Christmas season we call Advent are upon us. We are past the halfway point in our annual journey that takes us from the doldrums of the post-Thanksgiving days right up to the day of greatest expectation, Christmas Eve. We are busy, as though that were the measure of faithfulness. And we follow the formula that the busier we are, the more faithful we must be. But I'm not sure that's how it works. I'm not sure that these Advent days are meant to be a time when we drive ourselves to the point of exhaustion. I'm not sure that keeping Advent is supposed to end in collapse. When our ancestors in the faith passed this tradition on to us, I think they may have had something else in mind. We're doing our best at trying to balance everything, trying our best not to get caught up in the chaotic way of life that seems to be all around us. We don't want to be the hairy, wild-eyed people we see around us. We don't want to find ourselves racing like a rat in a maze looking for that little piece of cheese that we think will satisfy us. We don't want the chaos of Christmas preparation to drive us to the brink of losing our sanity. We believe in our hearts that there must be something more to this Advent business than all that. We want to believe that this Messiah, whose arrival we are so desperately preparing for, means that it's a bit more than twinkle lights and Zuzu pets. We want to believe that there's something about to happen that is so meaningful, so profound, so absolutely life-changing that to miss it would bring diminishment. When John the Baptist was preaching in the wilderness and telling his hearers that they'd better get ready for the Messiah that God was about to send among them, his audience posed a question. After listening to John's preaching that God was about to send one among them who would sweep clean all the falsehood and deception that cluttered their day, the people asked, "What then should we do?" That's a great question. If it's true that God is coming among us to clean house, they said, then what should we do? What John tells them is very telling indeed. He doesn't begin with, fall on your face and beg the God of the Messiah for forgiveness from all your wicked ways. That's where a good preacher would begin. John doesn't say that we would do well to begin with confession and absolution. There's no wallowing in the failures of the past, nor is there a load of guilt placed on the backs of those who know that they have not been the people they were supposed to be. Instead, John begins by saying, if you have two coats, you should share one with the person who has none. If you've been blessed with abundance, give some of what you have to the person who has not been likewise blessed. Recognize that there are all around you and among you those who do not have what they need to survive. Of all things, John says that in order to get ready for the Messiah to come, you need to begin with stewardship. If you want to be ready when the Messiah comes, John says, learn to share. Luke tells us that tax collectors piped up and asked John, what should we do? Now, tax collectors back in John's day were famous for padding the bill a bit. If you owed $5 in tax, the collector might charge you $7.50 or even $10, taking the extra for themselves. Okay, they were crooked. But crookedness isn't a disqualifier for John. Here's what you do, John said to the tax collectors. Collect the tax, but collect no more than the tax. No more taking what is not yours. No more grabbing what is not required. If you want to be ready when the Messiah comes, John says, then be fair. There were some soldiers standing nearby. Luke tells us that they had a question for the baptizer too. What are we supposed to do? Well, now back in the days before Jesus, soldiers were famous, even infamous, for misusing their authority by strong-arming people into doing things for them. A soldier might compel someone to carry their pack for them, or to prepare food for them, or to provide shelter for them. And who would say no? Whether a Roman soldier or a temple guard, these were people of obvious authority, and because of their position of power, the people quickly agreed to do whatever was asked of them, no matter how oppressive or demeaning. To these people of power and authority, John says, stop extorting money from people, and stop your threats and violence, and be content with what you are paid. If you want to be ready when the Messiah comes, John says, then stop your bullying. Having told that story, Luke continues with a very interesting sentence. After telling us what John said to the main audience, the tax collectors and the soldiers, Luke writes, as the people were filled with expectation. What John said to them, rather than scaring the stuffings out of them, instead filled them with expectation, with anticipation, with hope. Rather than causing them to flee to the caves and the catacombs, John's message filled them with an expectation that warmed the coldest places of their lives. John wasn't preaching despair. John was preaching a new possibility for a new kind of life.